Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sea of Tranquility's The Review Crew. We are the Review Crew, and today's crew, let me introduce them. We got John Gaffney from Lair of the Alchemist. This is our second show we're doing this weekend. We're going to be BFFs by the end of the day. We got Mr. Ryan Scow, and we got from the Monsters Den and other things, and Eric Porter down in the corner from in the Prague seat. And today we have some new releases that we are going to review for you. So let's start off with John and see what he has for us as his first review.
Okay, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure.
And my first one that I'm going to be talking about, unfortunately, I don't have a physical copy of it quite yet, but it's by the band called Warlord, and the name of the album is Free Spirit Soar. It was released on May 10th on High Roller Records. I'm going to give you just a really quick little background on this band because they have an interesting history. They were formed in LA in 1980 by Bill Tsamis, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, on guitar, and Mark Zonder on drums. Bill is one of my favorite. Unfortunately, Bill passed away in 2021, but he's one of my favorite like underground guitar players. He's a combination of like Randy Rhoads, Richie Blackmore, Uli Roth with sort of that 80s technical kind of thing. I always said like he could have been the guitar player that replaced Randy Rhoads in Ozzy's band. And Warlord is one of these bands that has a very they're from LA, but they have a very European sound. Think Queensryche, Heir Apparent, that kind of like a little bit of a classical vibe to what they do. They first appeared on the Metal Massacre 2 album in '82, and in '83 they put out a six-song EP called Deliver Us. And in '84, they released an album called And the Cannons of Destruction Have Begun. Now, this is interesting because it's actually a live record, but they recorded it, they rented a theater somewhere, recorded it with no audience. So it's a quote live record, but there's no audience. And then the band disappeared for a while. And with the dawn of the internet, they became one of these cult underground bands that if you're somebody, I always say when people ask me, oh, hey, I'm into Maiden, Priest, and Motorhead, but I want to start getting into more obscure 80s stuff. What should I listen to? This is one of the bands that I point people to because the sound of the band, like I said, is just sort of this great kind of European metal, great singing, great guitar playing. So the band would disband. Mark Zonder, the drummer, would go on to play with Fate's Warning for six studio albums, starting with Perfect Symmetry. They would get back together in the early 2000s. They would release an album called Rising Out of the Ashes in 2002 and The Holy Empire in 2013. Like I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, Bill Tsamis died in 2021. And then that leads us to the album that we have now, which is Free Spirit Soar. You've got Mark Zonder on drums. You've got Philip Bione on bass. He's like a long-running bass player with Steve Vai's band. Eric Juris on guitar. He plays with a group called Crystal Viper, or used to play with Crystal Viper. He still may, I'm not exactly sure. Jimmy Waldo is on keyboards. Jimmy Waldo was the keyboard player for Alcatraz. That was the band with Graham Bonnet that Yngwie Malmsteen was in for one record. And Gilles Lavery is on vocals, and Gilles used to sing with White Wizard. So the sound of this album, Free Spirit Soar, is epic. It's power metal without the fast double bass drum things, without the tempos. It's sort of classic 80s metal. Personally, I'm not a huge power metal fan, mainly because I hate hearing the double bass drums constantly going and stuff like that. This doesn't have that, but it's got all the grand themes. It's got all the, as I said, when you listen to this, you're going to want to dust off your suit of armor in your closet and storm a castle. That's kind of what this music makes feel like you want to do. There's a lot of big melodies, like where they'll go into a major key and the guitar does these soaring melodic melodies that you could just picture European crowds, singing along with them, maybe like a la Iron Maiden, the way Iron Maiden has those melodies in their guitars. So that's the sound of the record. The vocals are great. The guitar playing is great. Funny, the album starts off a little bit slow for me. The first two songs, Beyond the Pale Horse and The Rider, they're good, but they didn't quite jump out at me. The album doesn't really kick into gear for me until we get to the third song, Conquerors, which is very energetic. It's got cool guitar melodies, really nice guitar work, this uplifting anthemic chorus. And then it really gets going for me with the fourth song, Worms of the Earth. Now, I should mention Gil's vocal style. And it's kind of strange. The first couple songs, he's singing in kind of like a low tenor type of voice. He's not going super high up in his range. He's kind of hanging around in that mid vocal range type of thing. And then Worms of the Earth shows up, and the same thing in Conquerors. It's like his voice just starts getting higher and higher until when you get to Worms of the Earth, he's got this gritty, dirty sound to his voice and putting all this like intensity behind it. It kind of makes me think, like, in fact, when I first heard it, I was like, is this the same guy? And it kind of made me wonder, like, why wasn't he singing like this in the first couple songs on the record? But anyways, Worms of the Earth shows up and it's just absolutely fantastic. Starts off with these chanting like warriors getting ready for battle. The main riff reminds me of Diary of a Madman. It's got this rolling kind of 6/8 triplet feel to it. Again, it just makes you want to jump on a horse and ride into battle. It's just great. Next song follows right up with that, The Watchman, but this one almost has like a Celtic feel to the guitar melodies, maybe like something you would have heard from Thin Lizzy, like the song Emerald. Excellent, gritty, high range vocals. There's a nice nylon acoustic guitar, like little interlude in the middle of the song. Another one I really liked was Free Spirit Soar. That one's got a cool spacey keyboard intro to it. The Bells, that's another favorite of mine. I'm a huge doom metal fan, so this one has kind of a doomy feel to it. Dramatic keyboards that are kind of layered in the background with they sound like choirs and stuff. Again, just adding to this whole epic feel. The last song on the record, Revelation 14XIX, is the most progressive number on the album. Not quite the longest, almost the longest song, clocks in a little over 7 minutes. Lots of tempo changes, lots of melodies coming in and out, times where the drums and the whole band are just hitting these accents and rhythms together. Again, it's the melodies almost have this kind of Celtic folk like feel to them at times. This is a fantastic record if you're a fan of it. And I should also comment on the mixing of the record. It sounds like it could have been a really well recorded album from 1983 or so, Metal Blade album from 1983. So if you like that kind of sound, which I love that kind of stripped down, simple sound that you used to get from bands 82, 83, 84. This has that. It's very clean. It's not super hi-fi. It's not super loud. I'm a nut. I talk about the loudness wars on my channel a lot. This doesn't have that at all. Very punchy, very clean. Uh, so it's just a great album if you like this kind of thing. Cult 80s metal, epic metal, battle metal. Maybe you're a Doom fan. Great guitar playing, epic vocals, some keyboards to add atmosphere. If you like all those things, you're definitely going to like this album. So definitely check this out. Warlord, Free Spirit Soar on High Roller Records.
Oh, color me intrigued. I'll tell you this one power metal trope that I hate, or cliche, or whatever, is when they got the double drum, double bass going, and it's a fast pace, and the music is just going,
Yeah,
and the lead singer singing a pop song over it.
yeah,
Pretty much
And
a pop song.
the kick drums in those cases, to me, they don't have a lot of power. It's not like, Angel of Death by Slayer when Lombardo
right.
comes in. It's got it's like a punch in the chest. It's like
Yeah.
it's like two spoons on a cardboard box. It's fast as fuck, but it's like there's no like oomph to it. There's no power.
Right.
Yeah.
Just power metal.
And there's up-tempo things on this Warlord record. Off the top of my head, I don't remember there being any double bass drum on it. I mean, there might be some, but it's certainly not like these, like you said, with power metal, where it's just very, in like every other song. But this does have some, the choruses are very sort of sing along type of choruses. So there is sort of that kind of thing, but it's done in a way like, take up your sword, let's, let's charge the castle, like those kind of like soaring melodies. The lyrics are very kind of battle metal
Right.
type of lyrics, medieval lyrics and stuff like that, which I know some people feel that that's cliche, but I love all that kind of stuff. So that's just, give me a thing about slaying dragons and stuff like that, and I'm like just in a galloping rhythm.
Right.
I'm all in.
There's a tightrope the band has to walk between being cool with that and being
Yeah.
silly.
It
Yeah.
is.
You
It's
really
great
got to
music.
balance yourself in between.
And being that these guys have been doing this since 1980, this is it doesn't seem forced or anything because these are OGs.
Right.
They've been
Right.
doing this since 80, first album, 83. So yeah, so it's great. And if you're a fan of Warlord and haven't listened to this one yet, definitely check it out because it has that kind of old school Warlord classic underground metal blade, 83, 84 metal blade, attacker battle at Helm's Deep, like that kind of vibe to it.
All right. I think you're selling some people, some viewers.
Well, you were talking about this. I was looking it up. The first song on it looked familiar. It turns out they redid a song from William. I'm going to butcher his name too. I don't even want to say it. The original.
Sammy's, yeah.
Sammy's,
I'm
yeah.
not sure how to pronounce it either.
They redid a song from his 90s band, which was like under the radar in the greatest way because nobody cared about this stuff in the 90s, called Lordy and Guard.
Yeah.
So it's cool that they did that. They kind of revisited some of that stuff because I think like 8 people on the planet probably listen to that band.
Yeah, that stuff is really obscure,
It
and
is.
that might explain why the melody lines are a little bit kind of lower in this guy's range. And by the time you get to the third and fourth song, he starts really belting, and his voice really sort of opens up for me. But yeah, definitely a cool record.
I'm going to check it out.
Cool. Ryan, what do you got?
So we're going to go to Sweden by way of Italy.
Oh, I love Swedish music.
Well, so this is a new band started in get my dates right here, 2018, and they just put out this album last month. The band is called Flamekeeper. I love this. Got a really cool gatefold.
Ah, nice.
So this was a musician. This is a one-man band. It's a musician's name is Marco. He was from Italy. It's Marco is a good Swedish name. He was in a black death metal band from there called Demonomancy, who were pretty cool. Moved to Sweden a couple years ago, started a new band, Flamekeeper, right? So this band's a little hard to pin down. But the best way I would describe it, just to give like a loose feel, is it sounds a little bit like Hammerheart era Bathory. So Bathory when they got past like the growling vocals and it's just clean vocals. Maybe a little Manila Road, maybe a little Primordial from Ireland. It's kind of a weird mix. It's not really power metal. It's not really classic traditional like 80s metal, but it's got a little sprinkling of all of those in it. So
Prog, a little prog.
there's really no prog. The songs are very straightforward and they're not like overly simplistic. I don't want to like paint it like almost like a punk rock way. At the level of like just good classic metal. It's a one-man band. He does everything. He does have a full backing live band, so they do play live. So it's not like a bedroom project. And it's very triumphant. So I think his goal was, without reading too much into his reasoning and history here, he started this new band and he wanted to be very vigorous and triumphant, which I dig, right? And actually, when I was thinking about this album the other day, even though it doesn't sound like it, the first song that came to mind was Do Anything You Want To by Thin Lizzy, which is like this kind of like go out there, get it, take what's yours, rise above. I like that sentiment because metal doesn't always have to be dark, depressing, and evil. I like all the wizards and dragons and dungeons and stuff too. But I also like when bands are able to like take the torch and like climb the mountain. It has that kind of vibe. And this album like beats that gong relentlessly in a pretty cool way. One thing I'm not going to say a little harsh on because it's very, very hard to ruin an album for me with vocals. And this doesn't do that. But Marco does all the vocals, clean vocals. You just get the feeling that he hasn't been a vocalist for a super long time in terms of like clean vocals. So his style is a little, I want to say, unorthodox, and that's kind of what brings me to the Bathory Hammerheart reference because I love that album, I really do. But if you listen to Hammerheart or some of those, or the one after that, Twilight, you could tell that Corthon's vocals, clean singing, wasn't his strong suite, but he pulls it off because it's more like almost, I want to say, more will than skill. It's got a lot of power and like a feeling to it, and that's what happens here. The production, to speak on that, Marco actually his 9 to 5, his job is he runs his own music studio in Sweden called the Forge Music. So he produced and recorded everything himself, and it sounds great. Like I said, there's no loudness wars, nothing's like clipped, nothing's brick walled. It's got a nice, warm, full analog sound to it. The drums are like cavernous and thunderous. When it hits the toms, it's like, you know, which fits this kind of music, because you want music that's like, if you're going to listen to this while running or in the gym or something like that, or driving in the car, it's got that vibe to it. Since it's a brand new album, I wouldn't really go into the songs too much, because it's just, to me, it's an album that's just worth listening to in its entirety, and it's not that long. It is, I'll play it here. It's only 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes and 36 seconds. So it kind of gets in, you know, does what it needs to do and gets out. There's no like long, moody prog epics.
Okay.
Some songs are a little more somber and mellow than others, but you know, no song goes past like the I'm actually looking here. No song even hits the 4-minute mark. So it's really concise, bang, 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 get in there. And that's why I say there's no real prog feel to it. It's just like a classic metal-ish album in its own way. Doesn't really sound like anything. And you know, that's why the comparisons I'm throwing are kind of fast and loose. Like I said, Primordial, but Primordial have longer songs and they're really somber and can be moody.
And a
These
little
guys,
proggy. That's why I asked about the prog.
it can be a little proggy. These guys don't have that. They just have, I guess, the overall ebb and flow of a Primordial song. Maybe a little more up tempo ish. But yeah, but if you like Hammerheart by Bathory, if you like most of Primordial's catalog, if you like Manila Road when they're a little more, you know, introspective, Manila Road had a great song on that vein too. They did The Road of Kings from Open the Gates, which is a really good like song that's like, you know, raise your fist and get out there, which came to mind too. So the vocals are a little loud in the mix, which I think is a little interesting choice, considering, you know, the vocals. I mean, I like them. I don't get me wrong. I like them, but they're not. I don't think you're going to hear this guy singing and be like, yeah, you know, in that kind of like that classic Halford Dickinson DOA. It doesn't strike you like that, but it fits the music and it works. And you know, you can't tell from listening to this that it's a one-man band, because sometimes that has the trope of it's kind of you know, you know, you do everything with your master of none, as the phrase goes. But yeah, this actually sounds pretty cohesive and done. And the fact that he's got his own studio, the sound is great. So I recommend this. A little bit unusual, but you know, doesn't sound like a lot going on out there right now, but that's cool. You know, not everything's got to really sound like something else for new bands. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, if you like any of the stuff I mentioned, they're just like, I know Pete and Rich do a lot of the new wave. You know, they talk about shows doing like a lot of new classic heavy metal bands. This could fit in there very easily, like any of those new bands coming around. Eternal Champion, there's like a lot of them. Some of them are pretty cool. I would feel very comfortable like pushing this into that pile and saying, check these guys out. You might like this. So I'm going with the debut Flamekeeper album. And the album is just called Flamekeeper. It's self-titled. There you go.
What's the record label that it's on?
It is on Invictus Productions from Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
Small label, but they do have some US distros, so it's not hard, it shouldn't be hard to find. I know there's a couple of US distros that usually stock their stuff, so
cool.
It shouldn't be that hard to find at all. It's also available digitally, you know. I think Spotify, Bandcamp, like definitely on Bandcamp, but like all those platforms, you can definitely find this too. So yeah, definitely worth checking out if you like that sound.
All right.
Cool.
And Ryan, you reviewed last show Reversed, the album by the band Reversed. I did pick that up. I sampled it after our show, liked it, and ordered it. It still isn't here, but I did order it. So the influencers I have on this show sometimes even influence the host.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm going to listen to that Warlord, because I always liked them, but I just that album kind of slipped my mind. I didn't. Now
I'm going to sample that.
Only so many hours in a day, but yeah, now I'm going to go check it out for sure.
Yes, and yes, last show I did have Ryan and Eric on, so they're repeats, but these are reliable guys. They listen to a lot of new music, so if I ever can't find anyone, I know who to go to. Speaking of which, Eric, what do you got for us?
So this one is hot off the press. This was released yesterday. Mark Lettieri. I don't know if you guys have heard of Snarky Puppy. He's a guitarist for Snarky Puppy. I think it's another band, the Fearless Flyers, and they kind of mix and match players as they go. Got to see them for the first time last year at a jazz festival. Absolutely amazing. When they play, they usually have a horn section, 2 or 3 guitar players, sometimes 2 drummers. all instrumental. So Mark, he is a guitarist and he wrote, produced. I believe this is also on Snarky Puppy's label. It's like Ground Up. I think they're part of that. So with this one, it's not as jazzy. He's a great guitar player, but I wouldn't call it like a, you know, a show off. It's very song based, very lyrical. I love Mark's playing. He is joined by one of Snarky Puppy's drummers, Jason Thomas, and a bassist, Wes Stevenson, who has also played with Mark in another band. And I think he has his own too. And they're based out of Texas. But with this one, you get it's just really good, solid guitar playing, all instrumental. They do one cover, which I don't want to throw anybody, but it's Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper.
It's a great
But
song.
it's right. And he plays that guitar line. They kind of take it off, make a little bit of their own at the ending. But it's absolutely amazing. And I think I want to say he did everything for this. He produced it. He wrote everything, obviously, but that song. And I think for me, where he really hits his spot is funk. And, you know, obviously when I talked about Snarky Puppy, they're kind of considered fusion jazz, but there's a kind of a pop element to them too. He really hits his stride on funk. He's just got something with his rhythm playing. His lead playing is spectacular, but he's just got they just find a groove and they kind of ride it. And he plays over the top. There is a keyboard player, also Daniel Porter, who joins them on most of the tracks. So every once in a while, you'll get, you know, a little electric piano or an organ snuck in there somewhere. But I really feel like they find when they hit something that's groovy or funky, that's really where the sweet spot is. I think the opener, Dragonfly, is a real good rocker. They bring in a guest violinist on probably one of the mellower tracks called Black Iris. But again, it's kind of one of those things where the songs kind of settle in. And I think the guitar player, I want to say, is Zach Brock. And boy, he just at the end of that song, he just tears it up on violin. I'm a lover of violin. I don't know how many other people are out there, but it's a nice counter to the guitar that you're hearing on the rest of the album. And this one, I think, I don't know if it was John, but this one kind of picks up towards the second half of the album. There's a few variations. The first couple tracks, one rocks, one kind of lays back a little bit, but you kind of get to that. I think there's 10 tracks in total. And like the last 6 tracks just really clicked with me, which, you know, usually albums are front loaded. This one, if I was going to say something, I'd say maybe this is back loaded a little bit. But I think, you know, besides the funk stuff, what I really like about this is it's not showy. And as much as I love hearing a guitar player go off the wall, it's really, you know, for the song, as corny or cheesy as that sounds sometimes, it really feels like he's playing for the song. Like I said, very lyrical. Since it's instrumental, you kind of look at the guitar maybe as the vocalist in this one. You know, you get your melody line from the guitar, you get your solos from the guitar as well. But like I said, I saw Mark's, I think he goes out as Mark Lettieri group, but I know sometimes he plays with a quartet where he will bring a keyboard player. I saw him as a trio, and boy, these guys they just click. It's just great musicians, great interplay. It's great watching, you know, just 3 guys on stage and you kind of see a smile from one of them, or they'll look at each other and, you know, you can tell something's clicking there that, you know, they'll go off, maybe do a little improv. But I guess like I said, I was going to say there's definitely a good rock element to it. People who aren't into fusion or jazz, this really isn't that. You get a little bit of jazzy stuff here and there, but I really think, again, and this probably goes back to what I said with the last few tracks of the album, it really gets funky. There's a real funk vibe to this in the rhythms and the leads. I don't know. I love this guy. I hope I get to see him again at some point. Like I said, I know they're based out of Dallas, and he kind of works with various people, and Snarky Puppy even has people that kind of come in and out, and a lot of those guys are doing solo things as well. But if that appeals to you at all, you know, I guess it's one to go check out. So it's the title is Can I Tell You Something? Again, it's Mark Lettieri, and he's one of the guitar players in Snarky Puppy. So check it out.
For the record, Snarky Puppy is nothing like the band Skinny Puppy. They're 2 totally different bands.
I'm glad you said that it's more melodic style guitar playing, because maybe it's just my age. I can't handle listening to like guitar players just playing 1,000 miles an
Just
hour,
shredding.
constantly shredding. It's like they're all over YouTube now, these like 16-year-old kids that are just, their fingers are a blur all over the neck. And I could just be less interested. When I was younger, 83, 84,
Yeah.
I was eating up all those Shrapnel Records
Oh yeah,
guys that
Mike
were
Barney,
coming
right?
out.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I was really into that back then, but then just something happened, call it age. I don't know.
Well,
But something just happened and I was just like, I can't handle that
It
anymore.
turns
It
into a
really has
circus
to.
act.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a circus act.
And
Yeah.
it can get samey. I mean, great, you're going 1,000 miles an hour, but what am I listening to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is the song?
I'll take David Gilmour over most of these like
Yeah,
shreddy.
this makes you feel a
So-
little something.
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
Melody. I'd rather have melody and somebody doing something creative. So that sounds interesting. When
check
you
it out,
mentioned
John.
Snarky Puppy, I thought it was going to be like some really over the top, crazy, this guy's album. But when you said it's more melody and stuff like that, I'm intrigued. So I will
Yeah,
check
Check
it
it
out.
out.
too.
Let me know what you think too.
I
I'd
am
be
kind of
interested
curious
to
to
hear.
hear this.
Cool. All right. Well, now we are going to talk a little Phish. Let's see. Who Phish, born April 25th, 1958, from Scotland. Wait a minute. Not that Phish. This Phish. Phish, formed 1983 from Vermont, USA. What do they play? Jam band inspired music with touches of Frank Zappa inspired prog and with more accessible, shorter songs than you might think. Album Evolve, released July 12th, not too long ago, just a few days, a week and a half ago, 2024. I know Phish isn't for everybody, but that's all right because I like to try to, review all kinds of different music on the review crew. So I've been a Phish fan since 92, 93. And their first 4 or 5 albums I really like. And then Pitcher and Nectar, I love a lot. Took me about 4 years to see the face in that peach. So yeah, I'm a big fan of their first 4 or 5 albums. Then their albums started to get a little spotty, and as we went into the 2000s. So how does Evolve shape up? Well, I'm glad to say that it's pretty good. The recording process that they took on this is Trey Anastasio wrote a lot of these songs, played them acoustically, did them some of them on side projects, recorded them as side projects, more acoustic style. They played them live, so they really got to know these songs well, so that when they went into the studio, they batted this album just out in a few days, knowing the songs really well. And it kind of sounds that way, but the songwriting is what kind of is elevated, I believe, on this album than any album from the last 25 years. Starting off with Hey Stranger, comes in right away, this album, sounding, the music sounds live right away. You're almost anticipating to hear an audience cheer during the opening of that song. But it's a very bouncy song. You can see them playing it live. Some of their best songs are, all the songs on this album are pretty short. There's only 2 around the 6-minute mark, and the rest are like 5 minutes and below. So it's not that jammy. But when they write their songs, it's kind of like their songs are a hallway with doors. And in the studio, when they record them, the doors are shut. But you sense the doors. You know they're shut. And you know when they play this live where they can open a door and go into like a long 10-minute jam when they do it live. You sense it, but they don't really do it in the studio. And I don't mind jammy stuff in the studio, but when they just do a bunch of 5-minute, 4-minute, 6-minute songs, those are my favorite Phish albums. Oblivion. This is just a well-written, well-constructed song. One of my favorite Phish songs in a very, very long time. It's fun. This is when Phish is fun with a PH. When they play this live, I can only imagine the hippie dancing going on. Everybody high as a kite with the glow sticks and just dancing around. This is classic Phish. Speaking of which, Evolve, the next song. This is one of those It's the title track, and it's one of those songs where we all said it 1,000 times about certain bands. You can go back and talk about Black Sabbath 13. What do people say about that album? It sounds like Black Sabbath trying to be Black Sabbath instead of just Black Sabbath. Well, this song sounds like Phish trying to be Phish, but it's just one song. It's not the whole album isn't like that. Just one song. And you know what? I kind of like it. I like Phish sounding like Phish for just 4.5 minutes. It's a great, fun little song. It could fit right on Picture of Nectar. A Wave of Hope continues that fun song structure. Pillow Jets is a great song with a great guitar solo at the end. Not a jammy guitar solo, just your basic rock and roll guitar solo. Lonely Trip, track 6, is the first time the album comes down and does a slow song. It's a nice, breezy little song. Then Life Saving Gun is back to that bouncy rhythm, and then Monsters comes on at 8. 2 favorite tracks on the album is Oblivion and Monsters. Monsters is like this slow, smooth song, but there's a darkness underlying the whole melody. And at the end, speaking of David Gilmour, Trey really channels his inner David Gilmour for that guitar solo. It's just beautiful and dark. And then the last 4 tracks, you get 2 upbeat songs. It ends on 2 slow songs, which I wish it went out with more of a bang. But here's the thing. There's a song called The Well. It's on vinyl only. And it's really good. It's only 4.5 minutes long, and it's dark. It almost sounds evil at the end. And it would have been a great way just to close out the CD. And I don't know why it's not on the CD. And then when they tacked it on to the vinyl only, it's not even the last song. It's second to the last song. So the vinyl and CD both have the same last song, but they just added this one on as the second to last song. I don't know why. That kind of pisses me off. It's almost like they want you to buy the vinyl, and Phish vinyl is never cheap. Record store day, you go to record store day, and everything's like $35 until you get to that normal everyday Phish album that they just happened to release on vinyl, like Lawn Boy, $50. The
Forget about it.
Jamie, have you ever seen them live?
Yes, I've seen them a few times live, and it can be a religious experience. I want to see them in the Sphere. I'd love to see them in the Sphere. I'd love to see anyone in the Sphere at Vegas, but I've seen video of Phish at the Sphere. It has to be. Now, look, here's the thing. I get drug tested at my job randomly. If I went to go see Phish in the Sphere, I'd fucking take the chance. I take a whole week off of vacation, and I get high as a kite for that Phish show, and then hopefully it's out of my system by the time I come back from vacation. That's how I plan that. So, go ahead. Who said?
I was going to say,
John, you had something you wanted to add. You know this album, right?
No, I haven't. I've only briefly listened to it, but when's the last time they had a studio record? I thought that they weren't really. I thought they were like retired. Or just played like occasional shows and stuff like that. When's their last studio album?
2021, I believe.
Is it?
Wow. See, I've been out of touch with
more jammy album. I forget the name of it. Starts with an
Are they
X.
touring too, Jamie?
What's that?
Are they touring?
Yeah, I believe they're touring. I just saw them on YouTube as a live broadcast doing a show somewhere, and I watched it for 30 seconds, and then it says, to watch the rest of it, go to fishlive.net. Fuck you. Tease me. So yeah, they're still touring. I mean, they're all over the TV, like Sunday morning on CBS. They're doing interviews, and Trey just did a big interview in the last Rolling Stone magazine edition. So yeah, they were on Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
Or not Jimmy Kimmel, the
Fallon
show with
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. They were just on there doing a bit with him. So they're putting
Jamie,
themselves
you were
out.
right. It said 2020 was their
2020. Okay. Yeah. So 4 years ago. Not as good as this album, though. Nowhere near as good. But let's do the report card real quick. Production, A. Love the production. Songwriting, A-. Some of their best songs in 25 years. Musicianship, these guys are top-notch musicians. I don't care if the album could be them just farting for 45 minutes, and I'm going to give them an A+ because I know how good they just are. Vocals, Trey is Trey, B+. He's not the best vocalist, but I wouldn't want anyone else singing most of my Phish songs. So there you go. If you're into Phish, don't let this one go by.
Phish is one of these bands that I was really, really into them in like the mid late 90s. I mean, this is before Napster, so I remember they put out a series where like live shows
Yeah.
you could buy on CD. They were just in these like brown cover
Yeah.
things. I was buying the live shows. I saw them live a couple times. And then this might be a topic for a video on my channel. I don't know what happened. I just like stopped listening to them and I can't really put my finger. It isn't because like, oh, they released this album and I hated it. It was just like all of a sudden I forgot that they existed. And so that's why when you said, this new record and I saw they had this new record, I was like, gosh, like there's this big like gap for me with Phish where I have no clue what they've been up to or what they've been doing. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I listened to a little bit of the record, just kind of jumped around in it, and it definitely has me intrigued and wanting to kind of listen to them again. And certainly if they came around, I would check them out live.
Pete's doing that summertime album series right now in July. Great summertime album. Great.
I wonder if
I know
they
they're not
too,
for everyone, but
yeah, and I wonder if they, my brother-in-law is really into Widespread Panic, which is kind of a Phish-like jam band, and he has I think he subscribes to it. It's some sort of thing where when Panic plays live, you can listen to it like in real time. I'm trying to think if he's even able to watch it on TV because he's
right.
told me about how like he has friends that are really into it and they'll get together, they'll order a pizza and
Yeah.
get some drinks and they sit
Yeah.
there and they'll be listening in real time to Panic. Or if he's driving somewhere, it's like a Widespread Panic radio station that
Yeah.
during the day it plays old shows. And then when they have live shows, it's streamed live. So I wouldn't be surprised if Phish, you mentioned that pay-per-view thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they have something like that too, where you can watch their shows live or listen to their shows live.
That's a whole jam band world type thing that they do. I remember 20 years ago, before YouTube was YouTube, Phish did a live broadcast from New York, and they broadcasted it to movie theaters. So you
Yeah,
would go
I
to the
remember that,
movie
yeah.
theater and watch it live in the theater
Yeah.
and surround sound. And my wife and I went, and I brought some drinks, and we smuggled them into the theater. And it was someone brought I didn't bring it, but somebody brought a beach ball, and the beach ball's in the theater. It was a blast.
Awesome.
So, Ryan, I know you're not into any of that shit, so tell us what you got.
Well, I have a band from Australia, which is not a jam band, but it's okay. I'll still listen to that. I like to listen to everything. Even though I don't like
Yeah, John, I'll get back to you with your
Yeah,
review.
no worries.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh yeah, we skip. Yeah, we're jumping around here. We're all good.
Yeah,
All
we're,
right.
we're
We're
all
going to
friends here.
Australia. Here's a thrash metal band, which this artwork, speaking of wizards and stuff and sorcerers, it's cool. Band's called Mage's Terror, debut album. So what do we got? We got a sorcerer. We got some lightning. There's the dude with the sword. There's a snake. There's some
little
kinda
Eddie
cool-
almost on that one, right?
Yeah, there's a looks like a nice early '80s swords and sorcery movie VHS cover. Excalibur,
Yeah.
Pet Stalker, like all that shit. So yeah,
Nice.
these guys are obviously metal as fuck. You can tell by these photos here. So what do we got? I'm always the left versus right on the camera always screws me up. So these guys are thrash metal, and it's thrash metal in a very particular late '80s bent where you start to have thrash that was a little more technical, a little more I want to say like proggy, but there was just more going on. So I want to throw out some comparisons like Coroner, Macon Delta, certainly Voivod for a minute there, Watchtower from Texas, like that kind of style. It's not quite as as those guys were, but it has that feel to it. It's also, speaking of playing a million miles an hour, it's not really super fast. Like they never get into these like just absolute like freak out like 300 beats per minute. It's always kind of methodical, like a little more mid to upper tempo thrash. Vocals are harsh. There's no clean singing on this. Definitely black and death metal vocals. And if you look at the lineup of these guys, a lot of them come from a lot of underground Australian black and death metal, long time standing names, and it's all black and death metal. So that's their background. The guitarist Chris plays in one of the craziest Australian bands called Portal. So nobody ever heard them.
Oh,
It's
and the
just-
guy that wears a clock on his head.
yeah, it's just the guitar playing is wild. It's like they recorded all these black metal, or they wrote all these black or death metal songs, and then when it comes time to record them in the studio, they play everything backward. It sounds like they're playing metal backwards. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just the way the riffs progress and the way all the chords laid out. It's like everything's going in reverse. It's very. I almost want to say they're a little proggy because it's just so wild just to listen to this dude play. So he doesn't go into that level of freak out here. This is definitely more like just straight ahead, like thrash with a little bit of black metal on the vocals. But you could tell by his playing, this dude is a very accomplished guitar player. A lot of the other guys, the drummers, a couple bands called Consummation, Mongrel's Cross, Impetuous Ritual, like all these underground black and death metal bands from Australia. So this album has a little of that feel. Another band I would think of that came to mind was the band from California, Sadis. But Sadis, if you listen to their late 80s stuff, it's like breakneck. It's like that thrash where it's like falling ahead of itself. It's going so fast. They don't really have that. But I appreciate that style of thrash because there wasn't really a ton of it. And it kind of got subsumed by like when the 90s came around, like thrash kind of died off, other styles took over. And like black and death metal really came up too. So that was like kind of the end of like thrash as like a popular genre. So it had like this little spark of these bands coming around where it's like, check this out, it's like thrash, but like we're not playing slower. We're not bringing in like, how Metallica and Megadeth and Anthrax went. They're like, we're going to go into more accessible styles, maybe a little more commercial. I like when you had these other bands come out, like Corner is a great example from Switzerland, with here's thrash metal, but we're going to go just more of it, more complicated riffs, not necessarily proggy, but, if you really appreciate like good, like tight, compact musicianship, this was the stuff that was cool. And nowadays there's very few bands that, to my knowledge, and I dig into this stuff, that are doing this stuff well. So the album is called Damnation Sight, came out last month. Actually, no, it came out this month. Yeah, this is a great example of that style. If you like that kind of thrash, that's, it's not just breakneck, it's not full speed ahead. It doesn't have that like necessarily that punk undertone like some 80s thrash does, but it's just you can kind of get absorbed into the riffs and like the little journey the songs take you on. Very, very cool. There is 10 songs on the album, so you get your money's worth. And yeah, again, I'm not really going to go through individual songs because to me it's just one of those things where it's a new album and it's pretty compact. It's not a very long album, so you just throw it on and let it play through it. If you like this style, I highly recommend it. It is also it's also on Invictus Productions from Ireland. I swear he's not paying me money or anything. There's no bribes taking place. He just happened to release a bunch of new albums all within the same time. And I like all of them. They're like the ones I've been listening to the most. So I'm going to talk about them. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, if you dig that style of 80s thrash, definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth checking out. You can tell like look at that dude's arm, the gauntlet. These dudes are fuck. So yeah. The vocals, so that would be the only hiccup I think for some people is if you like that kind of thrash, but you don't like more like black or death metal vocals, that could be a little hiccup, but it's not it's done very well. And for me, this style of thrash was never about like the vocals as much. It's about the guitar play. It's like the old joke someone said, like whoever listened to Slayer for the bass play, it's always about the guitars with thrash. It is what it is. People always bagged on Justice for All, no Justin for just you can't hear the bass. I mean, it'd be nice to hear the bass. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think anyone's like, I can't stand this album because you can't hear Newstead's bass play. It's all about the guitars, and that's true of this album too. The guitar playing is what it's all about. It's what makes it, and it's really what carries it through. So, if you do like that style of thrash that kind of veers into the more technical, like instrumentally robust style that the late, 89, 90, 91, 92, definitely check this out. Very, very cool album. Worth your time. Yeah, like I said, it's not breakneck speed, which I admittedly do kind of prefer, but it's okay. The songwriting is good enough where it pulls it off, and I don't miss those like 300 beat per minute, like like a freaking tornado going down the track. So check it out.
Is vinyl your go-to format, Ryan?
I probably buy more CDs than vinyl, but if it's an album like I really, really like, I hear I'm like, this is really good, I will be ridiculous and buy both.
Yeah, me too.
So like everything I'm showing you, I also have the CD copy too on the shelf over there, which is pointless, but that's what I like to do. But yeah, just because vinyl is expensive, it takes up a lot of room. Even though I probably have like 2,000 vinyl. I have a lot more CDs just because
Yeah,
Like a new album will come out, and I'll be like, "This is good. I want it. I like it. I'm gonna buy it." But if it's not like this is going on like the top 50 for the year, I'll just buy the CD because it's just easier to be honest. But
yeah. Sometimes I like playing the vinyl. It's fun. But when I'm working here and I just want to play something real quick, I just like throwing the CD in and let
it's
it play
it's
for 45 minutes without flipping albums aside.
it is easier, and I have a 5 disc CD changer, so I just throw 5 CDs in there. It's honestly easier. But yeah, like in this case, like the albums I talked about today, I really like them. They're definitely some of my favorites from the year. And so I like the whole ritual, pulling the vinyl out of the shelf,
yeah.
cleaning it off, put it on, putting the needle on. I like that because then it's like you're focusing on that album, which for the best stuff, that's what I'm all about. So, but yeah, I probably buy more. I definitely buy more CDs than vinyl, but I do have a lot of both. I buy tapes too. That's a whole nother discussion. So.
And sometimes I'm like a Swiftie and I buy different colored versions of the same album.
There's only a few albums where I have like, there's not a lot. I'll just say, but there are
No,
a
there's
couple
not a
albums.
lot, but
I
there's
have
a few
like
I have.
There's one Voivod, the second Voivod album, Roar. I have like 8 copies.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
a box set, CD, tape, old versions, reissues, remasters, but
The
that's
last
rare.
Opeth album I got it in Sweden in the Swedish color vinyl. I got it in English in the glow and dark vinyl. I got both CDs, the English and the Swedish.
But that's like a rare. It's not all the albums.
Yeah.
Every now and then an album will come along, like where you end up with like a bunch of copies. But yeah. But
All right, John, you got something a little bit different for us. Music related, but it's kind of like a movie.
It is a movie. Yeah. The Ghost, Right Here, Right Now, RITE
Of
is
course.
how they spell it. So it only ran in theaters for a weekend, a couple weeks ago, back in June. If you're not a Ghost fan, I know Ghost is kind of a polarizing band. If you're not a Ghost fan, this movie is not going to convert you and make you a Ghost fan. Uh, it's really going into it, I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting, if you've ever gone to the Ghost YouTube channel, there's these skits that Tobias does where it's supposed to be his mother and his father is the original Papa. He's a ghost because he's not alive anymore. So I was expecting, I didn't know what to expect. I thought that there was going to be a lot of some kind of plot or something. There really isn't. It's mostly a concert film. I will say that it's filmed very, very well. It's produced with Tobias and what's the guy's name? Swedish. I forgot the guy's name. Aker. He did the Lords of Chaos movie. That guy, he's a famous Swedish producer. So the concert footage is amazing. It's done in high definition. I mean, there's times where you can see the guys playing the guitar. You can see the cracks in his guitar. I mean, it's just so it's very, very well filmed. It sounds great. So that's fun to have to be in a theater and see it like
I was
that.
going
I'm
to say, when you
assuming
were
that
in the
this is
theater.
yeah, I saw it in the theater. I'm assuming that it's going to be released on streaming or have some kind of
Okay.
DVD release at some point, but I don't know. I haven't seen them say anything about that. But there is then what happens is you get a couple they'll play a song or two and it'll either be between the songs or during the song. Like let's say the guitar players are soloing Tobias, the singer, leaves the stage and he's backstage. And then there's this interaction between his father and his mother, and it's sort of skits that they do. Some of it funny, some of it not quite as funny. There's a part in it where they do the song "Mary on a Cross," and there's like a Scooby Doo type of animation that they do. So it's mostly 90% of it is concert footage. The other 10% is him backstage interacting with his mother and his father and them. So there really isn't any kind of behind the scenes stuff. There isn't any storyline or plot. This isn't like Detroit Rock City or something where there's actors and there's all kinds of stuff going on. It's mostly a concert film. Again, if you're not a fan of Ghost, if you've listened to Ghost and you really don't like them, you're probably not going to like this. If you're a borderline fan or a fan of the band and you weren't able to see it in the theater because it only played for a week, Hopefully when it eventually comes out on streaming, I think you will enjoy it because it's filmed very well. And the stuff off stage is kind of funny and entertaining, and Ghost Show is very entertaining. I've seen them live basically every tour they've done. The last tour that they did when they came to Tampa, which I was so mad because the venue, I can walk to it. I was all ready for this, and there was a hurricane. So it got canceled. So the show that was filmed was the tour that I missed. And so they put on a very entertaining show. There's dancers that come out at one point dressed like skeletons. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So don't think just because, oh, it's a concert footage, it's going to be really boring. Ghost puts on a very entertaining live show. There's a lot of visual things happening. The camera angles and the sound is very good. And then the little bit of acting and stuff off stage sort of adds to the makes it kind of fun and stuff. Like the ending, I won't give away the ending. There's like the scripted thing that happens at the end that's kind of funny and cool. So yeah, hopefully, and seeing it in the theater, was really a cool experience. We were talking about Phish, and you mentioned how Phish did a live brought like show broadcast in a theater. I kind of wish more bands would do that, because like when we saw this Ghost movie, there were people dressed up, and it was kind of a fun concert atmosphere. But it was one of these nice new theaters with the reclining chairs and everything. So you had your popcorn and your drink and your back, but yeah, people are sort of cheering and singing along and stuff like that. So that's a lot of fun, and I kind of wish that more bands would do that, because I know that I don't know. I would go to the theater to see Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Metallica or something like that. I think it's kind of fun, and to be able to do it in that kind of relaxed, different atmosphere with your popcorn and your soda and everything and the people. It's fun. So hopefully this will come out on DVD or streaming. And if you're a fan of Ghost or on the fence with Ghost, I think that you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I've seen Ghost 3 times, and they were a blast all 3 times. The first time I saw them was on their second tour, and I got to the front row. It was at a big Rock on the Range festival here on the third stage, so the smallest stage of the three. And my wife stayed back, but I went to the front row. And when I got back after the show was over, I went back to my wife, and I was like, some people find Jesus. I think I just found Satan, because that was so much fun. I know people will go, it ain't metal, man. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it. Metal, pop, rock, arena rock. Call it whatever you want. I still like it. It's fun as hell, man. Every time they drop an album, this house buzzes. Oh, let's play the new Ghost. Okay.
And they're a band that appeals to. I remember seeing them maybe like their third tour when they were really starting to break big. And I remember looking around in the crowd, and there was people my age. There was younger kids dressed like, with like the Pope and everything, all dressed up. And at one point I looked over, and there was this lady that looked like a straight up soccer mom, like her minivan was parked outside, or something. And she was there singing along to every song.
Saying
And
all
just
those
totally
evil
into it.
lyrics. Well, here's the thing. If you really wanted to be a satanic band, would you be like a black metal band where you're only playing and getting the message through to black metal fans? Or would you candy coat the message into these pop songs? So Soccer Mom is singing the evil lyrics now. Now your message is reaching a wider audience.
That's a good
And
point.
when you
spread the
see
word,
them, when you see the movie too, it also sort of emphasizes the tongue-in-cheek nature of what they do. All these skits backstage, it's trying to be all scary on stage, and then he walks backstage, and his mom is telling him he needs to adjust his, jacket or something like that, and there's sort of this dialogue between, Mom, stop telling me what to do, like that kind of thing. And it sort of makes it kind of funny. I will say one of my top like 10 concert memories was seeing them maybe like 5 years ago. I saw them at this place called the Dr. Phillips Center in Orlando, and it's a theater, so they have a balcony, like a level. And man, I tell you what, when they went into Square Hammer, everybody was lined up along this balcony. You couldn't hear the band. Everybody was singing so loud, that, are you on the square? I mean, it was just absolutely
that song
deafening.
It drowned
out the PA, and all these people lined up on the in that mezzanine level up on the balcony, and they were all hanging over the thing because it was the encore, I think, and everybody was just hanging over this thing singing Square Hammer, and I'm getting a shiver up my spine
Right.
thinking about it. So I love them. I think their stuff is catchy, it's funny, it's silly and stuff
It's a
at times. Is it
darkness to
metal?
it as well. It's just
Yeah, and is it metal? I don't know. Who cares? It's fun. I like melodic stuff, so that's why I enjoy Ghosts. And I like the fun aspect of them, like this movie. There's slapstick to it. There's all these sort of goofy, funny things about it. They don't take themselves too seriously, so I
how long
appreciate
the
that.
band can keep it going, Tobias, with all those catchy songs. Who knows? The well will go
Yeah.
dry sooner or later, but hey, go as long as
Now,
you can.
I don't know much about them, but haven't they switched a lot of band members because they
Oh
kind of
yeah,
have
yeah. I know.
You're an
nobody really knows who's
employee. You're not
in
a
and out
band
of band
member.
or
You're
whatever.
an employee.
I have a friend that sort of knows those guys, and he was like, yeah, because of the whole, the nameless ghouls.
Yes.
I mean, it's about Tobias, it's about Papa Emeritus, it's about all that show and his kind of vision and everything. And when they go into the studio, I think he plays the majority of the ends. He plays the guitar and the bass, and he brings in guys to play solos and play the drums. And it's very much his vision. And so, yeah,
Okay.
a lot of those guys, and they all play the same instruments. That's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter who's in the band, they have to play, the type of guitar that they have. So it always looks like the same people because they always have masks on, and they're even playing the same guitars. But no, I think that there's a lot of people that kind of come in and out of the band, and the band is constantly touring. They tour all over the world. So I think they use different guys when they're in certain areas and stuff like that. They've got equipment stored here in the US. They've got equipment stored in Europe. They've got, it's like, because they're just constantly on the road, and it's this whole kind of thing. And the way he turns over his character, he's able to change. He started off like with the Pope hat, like he was the Pope, and then he's evolved
Cardinal.
into things. Yeah, Cardinal, right. And they evolve, and the characters around them change and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun in this day and age. It's hard to be anonymous and then think about how long Ghost had that running for, where nobody knew
If you would have
who
told
these
me in
guys were.
2010 these guys would be playing arenas, I said, get the fuck out of here.
I know, it's crazy.
What?
So I actually saw their first ever US show in
Oh, wow.
2000, maybe 2010, because as it turns out, before Tobias was in Ghost, he was in one of my favorite bands of all time who broke up. And they were just an obscure Swedish band, but they were called they recorded an album in 2002, then they broke up, then they actually reunited and they played Maryland Death Fest a couple of years later. I can't remember if it was the same year that Ghost played, because at that point it was like the original lineup. But it was this band, Repugnant.
Repugnant, yeah.
Yeah, this is like one of my top 10 death metal albums ever. It's so good. And his vocal, it's just amazing. And yeah, they broke up. Now I'm not gonna be like, well, Repugnant was never gonna get back together because of Ghost, because I think there was a pretty big gap in between the two entities. But yeah, I always like to throw it out there because I know Ghost has a lot of fans. And if you like Ghost and you just happen to like death metal or Swedish metal, this one album is Epitome of Darkness. So good for that style.
Check that out.
So yeah, it's just I always like throwing it out there. This was on. I don't even know how hard it's to get now, because I don't think he hasn't like really made they reunited. They did one or two shows, and then that was it. And I think they originally broke up in like 2005. So it's been like almost 20 years. But yeah, I don't know how hard it is to get. It's on Soul Cellar Records, which I've never heard of in any other context than this album. But yeah, if you like Ghost and you like death metal, go back to his old band. It's really cool. You might like.
Yeah, Tobias is no spring chicken, but he
No,
doesn't
he's been
have
around.
to worry about ever looking too old to be a rock star,
Yeah.
because you always got the mask. You're
I
like the
think-
Simpsons, never get old.
They just stay the same. I think they started in like 98. So, and I don't know if he did anything before Repugnant. So he could have been doing this since the early 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Eric.
All right. Well, I figured I wanted to promote another show on the channel because it kind of goes with this show, the Professor's Picks. So Ken Golden, who runs the Laser's Edge, he's on In the Prog Seat with me. He kind of will talk to us kind of off camera before the show starts and kind of, feeding us what's coming, what he's got, and that was the Lettieri. And I know he did mention, I think this just got, like I said, it just got released Friday, and he said he was almost sold out and is getting new ones in. So this is another band that we've all gone kind of gaga over on In the Prog seat. And I have to believe Ken is the one who kind of tipped us off to them. It's Aurora Clara. And this is their fourth release, cleverly titled 4. But this is a band I want to say it's kind of a mix of prog and fusion. They're all instrumental, shocking, coming from me, but they're definitely so this is kind of the caveat for them. And it may sound odd at first, but there's a heavy flute presence in this band, and probably people are gonna be like, oh, but they maintain a heaviness to their music. And actually on this, there's 6 tracks. The first track and the kind of the bookend tracks, the closing track and the first track. It reminds me of Mahavishnu Orchestra, take out the violin and put in a flute. I mean, the guitar player, I think it's Raul Manola. He writes everything, but he just has this rawness about his playing that it's great. He's a great player, but there's just something gritty and about his tone. And what is weird is you get that contrast of the flute, which kind of has the presence of the flute is kind of I don't know, I don't want to say pretty, but it's got this presence. And then you've got this dirty guitar that has the other side of the coin. And they do a lot of unison lines together. And it just sounds great. It absolutely does. And like I said, the opening and closing track, very heavy, definitely that 70s fusion vibe. And then you kind of get into the album a little bit. And like I said, there's only 6 tracks, but I still think it runs about 45 minutes, which for me is a sweet spot. I don't sometimes care when albums go into 80, 90 minutes. You feel sometimes like, I love that I'm getting music from my favorite bands, but maybe the quality isn't there as it would be on a 40, 45-minute record. So with these guys, it's a quintet, and the keyboard player, same thing. He uses a lot of those sounds you're familiar with in prog and fusion. He's got organ, he's got electric piano, and they're all playing off each other. There's a lot of soloing, but again, I find them to be, you get the heavy stuff in, but at the same time, I find them very melodic, very listenable. I think even if you're not a fan of instrumental music, like I said, I get that people the vocal sometimes is where people connect with a song, the chorus and, but I think these guys, the songs, the melodies that they're playing, they all kind of play off each other, and then there'll be a guitar solo and then a keyboard solo, and then they all come back together. Just very well done. Definitely has that 70s vibe to it, which I love, and it's fantastic. But you definitely want to at least like or be accepting of the flute, because you're going to get a lot of it on this one. But overall, like I said, if that Mahavishnu is kind of your vibe, maybe a little proggier and less fusiony, it might not be as complex as the Mahavishnu stuff, but it's in that ballpark. So again, I think it's and Ken has this one in stock as well, Aurora Clara, and it is 4. And I know they've been pretty prolific. I think their first one was 2019, but then 22 was their second, 23. So they've done 3 in 3 years. So they've got quite a bit of stuff out there already. So check them out.
Right. Great to hear. Great to
Cool.
hear. There's an audience out there that likes to hear about that stuff. So my first review was about a band that's not for everyone who might be watching, but my next one is is a band that's just about almost for everyone out there. So let's talk about Van fucking Halen. They just released a box set for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. So here it is. I'm going to try to do this because my hand's a little messed up. So the box set is kind of thick. And why they choose to do a box set for this album, I don't know. Maybe I should have Googled that. So you open it up and you got the CDs here. You got a remastered version of the CD. You have a CD with right now the original edit version, instrumental of The Dream Is Over, right now guitar version, Pound Cake Live, and then there's a live show that they did in Texas. I think it's Dallas, Texas, where they just did a free concert. What happened was they were playing in Texas. I'm pretty sure it was Dallas.
Jamie, was that like a street show? Is there stuff on
Yes.
YouTube with that?
What?
Okay.
Yes. What they did is they did Monsters of Rock tour in '88, and I had tickets to that in Pittsburgh and got grounded and couldn't go. So in '88 they did the show in Texas, Dallas, and Sammy Hagar's voice was all messed up. He tried to get through it. He cut it short, and he promised the crowd they would come back one day and do a free show. This is that free show, like in a market square type setting. They said there's 80,000 people there. I watched the Blu-ray because the Blu-ray is the live show that you watch. It doesn't look like 80,000 people. It looks more like 6,000. So I would love to see a bird's eye view of the crowd to see how deep it goes back, because it is on streets. And if you look at the side streets, it's not like there's thousands of people down the side street. There isn't. So I'm not sure how it's set up. There are guys on lamp posts balancing themselves for the whole show. One guy's on top of a "Do Not Enter" street sign the whole time, balancing himself. So it's really fun to watch. They made up the set list as they went along. There wasn't a set. It's a very loose show. At one point, Sammy Hagar climbs on top of the speaker rafters and can't get back down, and he's drinking during the day. It looks like it was December around Christmas, and looking at the sun, assuming that the sun sets in Texas the same way it sets, out here in the East, it looks like the show started about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. So there were people working in the office buildings, and Sammy brings it up. Can you imagine someone up there trying to type some shit for work? Get down here and rock and roll with us. So the live Blu-ray is really cool. I played the same show on the CD at the deck by the pool last weekend, and it went really well. Even my wife was digging it. So that's what you get music-wise. You get this little book, but there's no pictures in it. It's kind of like a program you'd get at a concert back in the day. I don't know if they still do programs. I never see them for sale. It's just pictures. So if you're expecting like to read a lot of stuff about the album and the recording, you're not going to get that. But here's the thing. I have the album. I really like this album. I'm on record on the Contrarians a couple of years ago saying this is my favorite Van Halen album. OU 812, 5150 in balance. If I did a ranking, they would be at the bottom. All right. I would put most of the Dave stuff ahead. But there's something about this album that I just love. I think it's on par with the debut. So I got the cassette. I got my original CD that I bought in '91. And about a year and a half ago, I've been looking for this for a while. Out in the wild, I found an original 1991 pressing of the album. And a record store down the street from me, Spoonful Records, they got in a big lot. It's like somebody died. They got in a big lot of all these 90s albums pressings. And I'm like, oh, I love pressings from the 90s because they're so hard to find. And I told the owner, she says, well, we're going through the whole thing slowly, and we're going to post the releases as we get through them on Facebook. I said, do you have For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge? Just tell me right now. We do. Boom. And I got it. So here's the thing. I compared the remastered vinyl, because this has the remastered vinyl on 2 albums, 3 sides. The 4th side is etched with the VH. I did 2 shows today. This is my 2nd show. I'm talking a lot. And it has a remastered on CD. So I compared it, the cassette, the original cassette, the original CD, the original vinyl, the remastered vinyl, and the remastered CD. The only thing I'm missing is a box set came out a few years ago with all the Sammy Hagar albums in it, and I think For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge was on 1 vinyl, not 2. The original was on 1. So the grooves are a lot shorter. They're thinner on the original and the one in the box set. They're more wide open. You're supposed to get better sound on this remastered. So how do I rank them sound-wise? Because let's just get this fucking over with right here.
Hey, Jamie, are you seeing Sammy on tour? Because
No, he's coming to Cleveland or Cincy. I would go, but dogs, hotel, driving. I got to pick my battles, and that's not one of the battles I'm making. A pluses because I love this album. But how does it sound? How would I rank all these? You might be surprised. Coming in first, I'm going with the original CD, Old Faithful here. It sounds the best to my ears. Now, this is just my ears. Coming in second, I'm going with the original vinyl. Coming in third, fuck, I'm going with All Reliable, the cassette. This is the loudest of all of them. This,
Wow.
for some reason, plays the loudest, and it still sounds really good. There's a little bit of tape hiss before the music starts playing, but I'm going with the remastered CD and then the remastered vinyl last. Sorry. And I also will add the original CD, cassette, and vinyl has like 8 seconds before Pound Cake starts of Eddie messing around trying to find, the plug-in his amp before he does the drill. So you hear like him just fumbling around. That's not on here. They go just right into the. I'm like, I always like that 8 seconds. So, I mean, this is $100. What are you paying for? A book with pictures, a nice case, and the Blu-ray and the live CD. Is the Blu-ray and the live CD and the fun case worth $100? No. This is not worth $100. So if you're a completist, if you really want that Blu-ray, but it's on YouTube anyways, the Blu-ray looks a lot better and sounds better than the YouTube, and you do get it on CD, so you can bring it in the car with you and stuff. If that's worth $100 to you, by all means, go for it. But if you're just on the fence, no, there's no reason to go this route. So the album's A+ all the way down for me, but this packaging, C+. I would have liked some more demos. There was nothing left off this album, the B-sides, possible B-sides or anything that they could have thrown on here. Nothing like that. Maybe another live show, from the tour, not just the free show, but actual tour. It doesn't even have to be the same show, just a bunch of snippets put together to make it sound like one live show. No, you don't get any of that, so I can't recommend it, but I won't hate you for buying it because I bought it. Let's move on real quick to a case of the singles. Demiser, Hell is Full of Fire. Demiser is one of my favorite newer death metal bands. They have a lot of traditional metal elements to their music. They have those sweeping guitar parts that make you go, yeah! I saw them live a few years ago. It was really fun. Hammerfall. Now, like I was saying, power metal is not my go-to at all. I don't like it when the band plays fast and the guy is singing in a high-pitched and just doing a pop song. It sounds like NSYNC song over metal, and it doesn't work with me. I never gave Hammerfall a chance, but I listened to the End Justifies Freedom and Hail to the King. I was thinking maybe I should have gave these guys a shot all these years. Maybe I was a little too harsh. They're not like Dragon Force at all. The music is not at neck-breaking pace. The music, it fits with the vocals. So yeah, I went back and listened to older Hammerfall albums, and I was like, yeah, these guys aren't bad at all. And then Tidal Wave, a stoner rock band. I don't think this is going to be on an album or anything, but they did a song called Earth, which was one of the first names Black Sabbath used for their band. And this is like almost 7 minutes long, and it's so badass. It's out there on YouTube. And the best way, they have Sabbath in parentheses under Earth. So I don't know if it's called Earth Sabbath or just Earth, the song. But what it sounds like is if there was a lost song from the first couple albums and Black Sabbath went into the studio and recorded it with Tony Martin singing it. That's what this song sounds like. And there's a big, epic guitar solo jamming at the end. So I can't recommend this song enough if you're a Black Sabbath fan. And you can see they really made it look like Black Sabbath with the colors and everything. So yeah, check that out. And also check out my Facebook page, Let's Get Physical, where we talk about everything that is physical media, books, Blu-rays, comic books, albums, vinyl, CDs, cassettes, VHS, whatever you got, because you never truly love something until you can put it on the shelf. So that's why my wife sleeps on a shelf.
Mhm.
And that's all I got. Anyone else want to add anything? I need some goddamn water.
Good to go.
So
I think it's all been said.
make sure you check out our other show that's posting today that I did with John, where me and Martin and Pete and all these guys got together and we talked about, why do we do this? Why do we do YouTube? What the hell do we get out of it? It's really interesting. I wanted to get the 4 talking points, and we talked for over an hour and only got to one of the 4. So we're going to do a part 2, and maybe a part 3, part 4. We'll see. So in the meantime, check us out on www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Click on the subscribe button, hit the like button, and make sure you go to the Ko-Fi page and contribute a little bit by Pete some pints. Speaking of which, it's almost pint o'clock right here. And go to the Cameo page and give Pete some money. If you give him enough money, he'll let you be the center square on Hudson Valley Squares. No, he won't. No, he won't. I'm lying. Don't you dare say, well, Jamie said I could be the center square.
I was gonna say
to Chris Allo. No, you can't. I am totally lying. So until next in 2 weeks, Pete wants me to do this weekly.
Good luck.
Yeah, no. I already know my answer. No. So until next show, when we have a new crew and new reviews for John, for Scott. Oh, make sure you check out John's channel, Lair of the Alchemist. Go over there right now and watch his videos. Check Ryan out on Hudson Valley Squares. Check Eric out on In the Prog Seat. Check me out on whatever. You got enough. I hosted 2 shows today. You got enough of me for today, so don't worry about it. Until next time, guys, everyone, have a good one. Bye.